Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's very fitting that at the end of TechSparks Day 2 in Mumbai, we start focusing on the future of data proofing as in the previous panel, and not the future of technology and talent as in this panel. We have with us two outstanding experts. You just heard about Saumil Shaw, AVP Sales at Neosoft, earlier at Nibal Technologies and Shirsa Labs. Is that right? Yeah. Also with us is Udai Singh, a veteran of this industry, President for Global Products and Solutions and Delivery at NIIT, a graduate of BITS Pilani as well. Big round of applause, please, for our two industry experts over here. I have a few questions for the panel, but I want to keep the panel open for discussions from the audience as well. So my first question is for Udai. Udai, what have you learned over the years of how are people learning? How do people learn about technology? How do people learn languages? And therefore, how can technology help improve the learning process?
Thank you. Pleasure being here. I think over the 35 odd years that I've been at NIIT, one of the things is every few years we get excited about a new technology and that this is going to solve, all the learning problems. But I think what we've also seen is that there is an underlying science of learning. And even though we have a lot of technology at our disposal, unless we go one level deeper on how people learn, very simple thing. We don't learn anything unless we can create long-term memory. What are the methods by which we can help people develop long-term memory without, it being the drudgery of rote learning? And just as an example for this conversation, one of the things that the world has learned is that when you immerse people in an environment where they have no option but to learn, the learning gets accelerated. Just as an example, we could try and learn Japanese sitting in India and maybe not make much progress over years. But 3 months spent in a village in Japan, surrounded by everything in Japanese, is going to create a lot of accelerated learning. And for learning designers, therefore, the issue is how do we recreate an environment in which people have to actually perform and then help them learn. So if we have to teach somebody how to be a part of a banking operation, then maybe you have to simulate a banking branch and help them learn in that.
Great. Thanks for setting the stage so well. Let's see who we have in the audience now. How many of you are developers or you work with developer communities and so on? Okay, a few. How many of you are in the ed tech space? You are developing content for training people how to code, or you're developing different kinds of content for the education ecosystem? Content developers? Okay, not many. How many of you from the HR side? You're from the talent end and you're looking at how to help companies skill and upskill. Okay, one or two hands at the back. How many of you are founders in the audience? How many of you are founders? Oh, great. A lot of entrepreneurs here. Excellent. Good. So my question now is for Saumil. Saumil, one question for startups as they grow is, should we keep everything in-house or should we outsource? So what are your tips, and based on your case studies, what advice can you give these guys?
Right. Hey, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure. And it's a great question. And I'm happy to see a lot of founders here, right? It's a simple scenario, right? When you decide that I need to stop dating and marry this partner, right? At the end of the day, you will end up marrying that partner for sure. The question is when. So whenever startups come to us, right, we try and understand where they are in their journey. And that determines whether they should outsource or they should build the talent in-house. And we help them do both. So if you are at a very early stage where you probably have an idea or a prototype, I would say you need to focus on business and not tech. So it's important for you to reach out to partners like us, and there are many of them out there who can help you build your MVP, MVSPs, whatever you want to call it these days. But at that stage, it's important to outsource and focus on building your business models, your revenue models, and finding that first customer who's going to pay you, right? That's very important. If you keep focusing on tech, you're going to end up burning a lot of your time correcting it. You're going to get so involved in that whole process of getting married to it that you'll forget that I need to actually go out and do business and actually have to sell my platform or product or service that I'm building. So at a very early stage, I think it's important to outsource. And slowly, when you start growing, you start generating revenues, it will become imperative. It will become obvious to you that, okay, now this is the right time for me to actually get committed, marry, and set up a whole team, in-house. Again, there I feel it's important to understand how many of those team members should be on the team and how many of them I can still outsource and create a hybrid model there, right? So that I'm still focusing on the core tech, so my back end, front end is taken care of, but do I really need a DevOps team? No, I don't. That can be still outsourced, right? That's not a full-time job. So you need to identify what's a full-time job, what jobs are going to be important, which will have a runway for the next couple of years, will always have something or the other activity that needs to happen from building my tech platform perspective. Those are the ones you actually start doing in-house, and the rest you still remain outsourced. So that's what I would suggest.
Great, thanks. Also check out their booth. They got a booth outside. You can get further details from them about how all this works. Let's turn now to Udai again. Udai, can you talk a bit about the size of India's tech workforce? How big is our workforce today? How fast is it growing? And how ready are graduates today to be in the workforce? A lot of companies spend a lot of time training them to be workforce ready on the job from day one, kind of. So what are some of your thoughts on workforce and industrial academia collaboration?
If you look at some of the data that is published year after year by industry associations such as NASSCOM, it's estimated that there are upwards of 6 million people directly involved in the IT services industry. And of course, a fair part of that is now beginning to be contributed by startups. If you remove the most immediate year where there's been a bit of a slowdown in terms of hiring fresh talent, I think overall the industry, to that base adds 3 to 5% people each year. But I think what has changed is now that in comparison to the new people joining the industry, the existing industry size, and given the fact that technology changes, every 3 to 5 years with really significant changes, perhaps, in a decade or so, it's become really, really important for people to much longer into their careers earn a place at the table by having, deep skills. And I think a term that many companies use is the whole concept of deep generalists. I know it's a bit of a dichotomy, but the whole idea is that you have a point of view on multiple aspects of the ecosystem and people that you're collaborating with, but you really have taken the effort to maintain deep expertise in at least one area, which is why you're at the table. And which means, therefore, constantly learning, constantly, ensuring that your skills are up to date.
Thanks. I learned something new from you today. Deep generalists. Thank you. Thanks. So my next question for you, Somil, is can you talk about how, we've heard about different ways of technology at each of these TechSparks conferences. There was blockchain and then metaverse and Web3 and Gen AI. How do you stay on top of technology and know what is the real tech to focus on and not just something faddish?
I'll piggyback on what Udai just said, right? We also hire a lot of freshers every year. And the whole idea of that hiring is that we want to run a lot of POCs on these new age technologies, because more than our laterals, I think these youngsters come up with amazing ideas of applying these technologies in different areas. So we use that energy of the youth, to do that. So we run a lot of POCs and try and figure out, does this actually have an application in the industry, right? Then of course we have a lot of customers that run COEs. So we partner with them and and we ask them, can we actually do something that you are doing, replicate that, and figure out, can we create some sort of revenue for you by using these technologies? So if I have to give you an example of that, when blockchain, was in the rage, everybody wanted to use blockchain, and it was, so to say, the sexy term to use, that we are a blockchain-enabled platform, a blockchain-enabled product. But if you look at how many times you've actually applied it in real-world scenarios, is probably a few, right? And we're proud that at least a few of them have come to fruition and are live, and they're making sense. So it's important to figure out where is the application, where is the business application, where is the monetization that's going to happen about it, right? So I'm all about the dhanda, right? Dhanda hone wala hai ki nahi? Agar nahi hone wala hai, to then it's good to have that, okay, we can do Web3 or we can do metaverse, but how do we apply it? right? That's the underlying thought behind running these POCs and figuring out where the application is in the industry, talking to the experts and working with them.
That's a great insight. Look not just at the technology, but the application and the business use case of the technology. Uday, tell us a little bit about how existing workforces can be upskilled. It's one thing to be a fresh graduate, but let's say you've been in the industry for 5, 10, 15 years. How do you keep upskilling, and what are you guys doing to pull up the workforce to the next level of technology?
I think there are two parts to it. One is that job roles keep continuously being defined and refined, and they keep evolving. If you just look at programmers, software developers, over the last decade, it's been about full stack software developers. And within that, there are shoots of data engineers, ML engineers, and so on. So one of the things that we do is, of course, interact very closely with our customers who are large employers, technology companies, to say, how will technology shape future skills? And constantly, therefore, looking at what are the kinds of tasks that people will be expected to do on the job, and are they really ready to do those tasks? So if I were to break it down, there are job roles. Job roles contain competencies, and you see, is a person capable of doing that? And how do you gauge the competency? By saying there are 4 or 5 tasks. If they do really well, then I would say that they have that competency. And then you break down that, tasks into knowledge, skills, and experience that they need to get. So there's a fairly systematic way that people for themselves can evaluate. Will they contribute to a team right from the word get-go, or will they add to the burden of the team? And as a team leader or a delivery head, everyone's looking for people who are going to contribute from day one. And I think, therefore, for individuals, it's important to say, can I be a day one contributor? And that'll itself be the trigger for making sure that you have the relevant skills.
Great. Another term I learned from him today. Be a day one contributor. Don't wait till the very end. So please put your hands together to thank both Saumil and Uday.